Well, hello and welcome to episode 86 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here as always with Michaela. Michaela, you have made it back from the Mile High City. You introduced everyone to the perfect way to make a screwdriver this week on the lobby bar, so we definitely appreciate that. But what else has been going on? You made it back, so you were here this past weekend. Did you get caught up on any other movies, or did you have any good cocktails? Welcome home cocktails.
I did. Okay, so I found a really lovely canned rosé
Okay.
that was great for the pool.
Mm-hmm. Now you had a
Yeah.
you had a previous favorite rosé, which came in a plastic bottle,
Yes.
which was your favorite pool rosé. But
Yes.
did this can of rosé replace it?
Um,
Is it a substitute? Is it a you
no,
you can
no,
you can sneak a can in easier than a
no.
bottle?
I mean, let me be clear. I'm gonna need multiple cans to get it through a pool day. No, that bottle, plastic bottle, it's called French Pool Toy. If you can find it, it's like $10 a bottle, and it is a really solid rosé. It's very good. If for some reason you can't bring a whole bottle and you can only do a can, this one was called House Wine,
Oh,
which
okay.
sounds it's and which maybe everybody else on the planet knows. You can get it at like a Target or a grocery store or whatever because it's a wine. I found it to be quite refreshing. It does have to be really cold. If it warms up, it is not nearly as good. So make sure that you've got a cooler or whatever. But I discovered that for the first time this weekend, and I think it's
Okay.
way better. I just prefer it to the Underwood, which is also a really famous rosé
Hmm.
wine that I have had.
Yeah.
I think this is a little bit deeper in flavor, and it's got a nice effervescence to it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I've heard of house wine before, like in the box wine realm, but I have not ever seen their cans, and I've not seen anything because they did like a house wine, white and a red. So yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out on that. The can cocktails and the can wine are always good to have on hand for pool days and boat days and going camping days and kind of anything you're doing outside. Those are the perfect thing to have. So while you were gone, let's see, what did we do? We got caught up on some TV shows. We binged through all of Dope Sick, which is on Hulu. It stars Michael Keaton. It is about the opioid crisis and kind of lawsuits that stem from that. That was really good. We watched through that. We started watching Under the Banner of Heaven. We've almost finished through that. That's Andrew
Ooh, tell me
Garfield.
about that. What's that?
Um, yeah, so that is it's based on a true story, and then kind of novel that followed along after it. But it's basically a murder in this Mormon town in Utah. Andrew Garfield is a Mormon detective. And so it's kind of like this true crime thing, also as a crisis of faith kind of a thing. And it's Andrew Garfield. So, of course, he's excellent. So definitely recommend that. That's on Hulu as well. So definitely check that out. Check out Dope Sick, both on Hulu. And yeah, really good. So check those out. They were both nominated for some a couple of Emmys each, I believe. So, or, and yeah, so really good. So just been catching up on some TV, staying inside. It was really hot over the weekend. I did get outside a little bit, enjoyed some sunshine, but not too much, as my skin was thanking me for later for sure. But now, Michaela, what we're going to do is we're going to go in a time machine. We're going to travel back in time 25 years to
Ooh, 25
to
years.
so I don't even know where this fits, but this movie came to us because it was they were showing it at our movie theater as one of those Fathom events, and we're like, 25 years, we should definitely cover this. And that movie is The Fifth Element. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back to whip up this week's cocktail.
So this week we're traveling to Fhloston Paradise,
Yes,
which
yes, we
apparently is like a ship that
it,
travels the world or the universe.
well, it's
It's like a
yeah,
cruise ship, but in the air.
it's like a cruise ship that goes through space. It's very similar to the cruise ship at Disney World that we just went on. I think it goes to a planet that is full of beaches and all of those things. And Fhloston Paradise, it's beautiful. Now, normal people like us can't just go there, Michaela. You have to win a contest to be able to go. Just
Right.
like Korben Dallas has to do, although that one was rigged. But we can go there in spirit
Right.
with
Right.
with a delicious cocktail. And this one comes from the YouTube channel Common Man Cocktails. It's where we found it. Fhloston Paradise. It looks great from the brochures. It looks great on the YouTube channel there, and we wanted to try it out because who
We
doesn't want to
did.
go to Fhloston Paradise?
Who doesn't want to go there? I mean, there's action. Bruce Willis is there. He has hair. There's like an eight foot
He
tall
has blonde
blue
hair. Yeah,
diva singing crazy song. I mean, it's amazing. It's
it
amazing. You
is.
want
Yeah.
to go. If you're listening,
The
you know you want to go.
the ship might get blown up, but that's okay. It is worth the risk, and this cocktail I think is worth the risk, Michaela.
It absolutely
So
is.
why don't we whip one of these up? It's very simple, which is nice. We like simple here. So
That's right. So this calls for 1.5 ounces of my daddy's favorite Gosling's Black Seal rum. Only one
mhm.
and a half ounces, but it packs a punch. Then you need 1/2 ounce of any sort of ginger liqueur that you can get your hands on. Now, we found some Domaine Canton, which we were able to find at our liquor store, but that
Mhm.
is not a cheap bottle of a ginger liqueur. So if you find one cheaper, I'm sure it's fine. Because you only need 1/2 ounce of it. So we're going to be drinking a lot of these to get through that bottle. But
Yeah.
to add to that, you're going to need 1 ounce of pineapple juice.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what you're going to do is you're just going to put all of that in a shaker and stir it, or not stir it, shake it with ice, and then pour it into a chilled coupe glass because it looks real fancy.
Mhm.
And then you're going to drink it.
And then you are going to drink it indeed. Yeah. Like I said, this one is pretty easy to put together. And it has kind of some tropical ingredients. And we're going to talk about how those come together here in a second. But like you said, 1.5 ounces of the Gosling's Black Seal rum. If you don't have that particular one, that's a pretty inexpensive bottle if you're looking for a like a blackstrap rum. So that's a good one. Cruisin makes one. You could use like Captain Morgan Black, Kraken, any of like the dark, like the blackstrap rums. And then, yeah, a 1/2 ounce of this ginger liqueur. And you and I both found Domaine Decanton, which, like you said, is a more expensive bottle. And that's because it's French. So it has a little bit of cognac in it. And that's the same reason that Grand Marnier is expensive and Chambord is expensive, where you can get a raspberry liqueur for $9, but you can get Chambord for $35. So
Ooh.
that's kind of the difference there. But yeah, you could use any ginger liqueur that you find, and then yeah, the 1 ounce of pineapple juice. So mix that up. And I expected it myself to be much more tropically tasting than it was. Because you're looking at it and you're like, okay, rum and the pineapple juice, ginger. This is going to taste a little bit more like a tiki thing, but it's not. It's very. It packs a punch for sure. That black rum and the ginger liqueur, it packed the punch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was concerned that this was also going to be very gingery. Because the ginger liqueur is very potent. If you take a sip of it by itself, it's very gingery. And I am not a huge ginger person. I like it, but it can definitely be overpowering. So yeah, I was surprised that this does not taste like a Mai Tai, like at all. And it
No.
does not taste like you're biting into some gingerness or like we made our own ginger liqueur, kind of ginger infused vodka once, you and me, and
Mhm.
that was way more gingery than this. So it's actually pretty even. It packs a punch the very first time you sip it, but I think that probably a couple of sips in, halfway through the drink, I was really enjoying it, and I enjoyed it so much I actually made a second one, which
Mhm.
doesn't always happen here on the Drink the Movies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that speaks, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I was looking at it and I was looking forward to this one because one of my favorite kind of long drinks is the Dark and Stormy, which is, if you're familiar with the Moscow Mule, it's basically just that, except you're using a blackstrap rum instead of the vodka. So it's the rum, ginger beer, and then the lime. And I thought that this was going to be more akin to that.
Mhm.
In a way, it kind of is. So I kind of look at it as like the Dark and Stormy is like what you're drinking like all day long when you're out at the beach or at the pool or on your cruise to Fhloston Paradise. But then when you go in for dinner, you put on your suit, You have the whole rack of suits come out. You put on that suit, and you need something a little bit more classy, and you're going to switch to the Fhloston Paradise. With this, it's a little bit more highbrow, I guess, kind of version of the Dark and Stormy, and I like that. I think that was nice, and we've mentioned it a couple of times. It's fun to get into new ingredients and to use them in ways that we never have. And spoiler for next week in the lobby bar, I actually found a really good recipe for that Domaine de Canton, the ginger liqueur. So if you go out and buy a bottle of this, I promise next week I will give you a good recipe to use it for. Because like you said, the half ounce, that's gonna go a long way in this expensive bottle.
Yeah, we got a lot of drinks we're gonna have to figure out how to make with this stuff. So, which is good for that app that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So cocktail flow. So that's a good one and a good way to do that. But Michaela, now we have these drinks made. We are on our cruise. We are headed to paradise to save the world, to find Leeloo, and hopefully get one up on Zorg, find these stones and get things taken care of. So let's take our cocktails, let's take a break, and we will be right back to chat about the science fiction classic that is The Fifth Element.
Spoiler warning for The Fifth Element. If you've not yet seen this amazing classic by Luc Besson, then you should probably stop right now and go watch it, because we're going to talk about it. But maybe before you do that, go and make yourself a Fhloston Paradise, because you really should drink and watch this at the same time. It might help. It might,
Yes.
It might help.
That's right. It might help you get through that first screening, because this is an insane ride, and yeah, we're gonna go and talk about the whole thing. So this came out in 1997, which was 25 years ago, directed by Luc Besson, as Michaela stated. And this one stars Bruce Willis, a blonde-haired Bruce Willis, as Korben Dallas, Mia Jovovich as Leeloo, the Fifth Element herself, Gary Oldman as Zorg, and of course the incomparable Chris Tucker as Ruby Rod, who is going to be serving as our DJ as we make our way to Fhloston Paradise. Michaela, 25 years this thing has been out. That's crazy.
I can't believe I'm older than 25. How did this happen? World,
I don't know.
How did this happen?
We are old. We're old. Yeah. And it snuck up on us. I mean, to be fair, the Fifth Element is not something that you think about day in, day out. I mean, it resides in your brain. You can never forget it once you've seen it. It just lodges itself in there. But I hadn't thought about it in a while. You and I were at the movie theater a couple weeks ago, and they were doing, they have the Fathom events where they're doing like the anniversary shows and all that sort of thing. And they were having the Fifth Element on for the 25th anniversary. And we're like, oh yeah, The Fifth Element. That would be good. That would be fun. That's a fun movie. Let's talk about that. But yeah, I think it's exciting to come out.
It is
25 years ago, and this one was I don't know if I would say that it is groundbreaking, but it definitely holds a place in a lot of people's hearts. This was nominated for one Academy Award, and that is sound effects editing. It lost, but there were in 1997 was an insane year for movies, so it would be easy for this one to get kind of lost in the annals of time, but it's so good. It stands out so well. There were three big science fiction releases that year, Michaela. So you had this one, of course, The Fifth Element. We also had Men in Black came out that year, and Starship Troopers. That's a crazy amount of science fiction movies coming out in 1 year. And then to boot, I mean, 1997, you had a couple other good movies. You had As Good as It Gets. You had Good Will Hunting. You had Titanic. You had Amistad. You had Boogie Nights. You had Jackie Brown. 1997 was the best year for movies of all time. Pretty sure.
It really was. It really was. And the fact that people are still, watching this and are excited to see it in a theater after 25 years, this very much was, reminiscent of my teenage years. I mean, everybody loved this movie when it came out. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into all the things that make it the story and the amazingness that it is.
That's right. We'll try to do it justice. We will try to explain it in any sort of way that makes sense, because it gets a little crazy, but it is a ton of fun. And this one gets kicked off. We are in Egypt, presumably. I'm guessing there's camels. There's some sort of Egyptian tomb looking thing. We've got I don't know, some sort of explorer guy and his assistant, who's played by Luke Perry. I think it's hilarious that Luke Perry gets his name like plastered on the front of this thing as being a star of the show. He's literally in it for like 3 minutes. Basically causes nearly the end of the world. It was pretty close. It was hit or miss there for a minute, but yeah, we're in Egypt. This crazy spaceship comes down and lands. These big turtle aliens come out, and they're just here to.
Mendeshians. They're called the Mendeshians.
They're
Get
here to
it
check.
right.
They're here to check on us. They're here to check on us. It's very
What are
Doctor
they
Who
checking
looking.
on? We're
I
like
don't know.
apparently we're 300 years away from this 5,000 year evil that's supposed to come every 5,000 years. It's
Mhm.
1914. They look like I don't know. You know what they look like? Like in the movie Return to Oz. The guy TikTok, he was like a giant clock that looked like he was made out of brass, and it kind of does this Humpty Dumpty kind of walk. These doom 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 doom. The Minoshi ones, they're very sweet looking. They look like metal ducks, just
Yes.
ginormous metal duck things. And this scientist guy who is inscribing this tomb thing, he's like, oh my gosh, I found this amazing pictogram of these elements and this fifth element thing in the middle, and it's this perfect being, and we've never seen anything like it. And this priest is like, okay, you need to leave, and then he tries to poison him because he's like, you can't know anything about this. And then of course the giant Mendeshian duck things come in, and Luke Perry, man, you know, he gets a lot of credit in this movie for basically shooting a gun, and they, you know, the tomb comes together, and they're like, you have, you know, the Mendeshian guy is telling the priest, you know, in 2.5 seconds before everything gets like closed up in this tomb, that he needs to pass down this information because in 300 years, you know, things are about to get real. The evil will return, and we have to get into this tomb, and we have to take out these stones, and you have to take out the fifth element, because if we leave it on Earth, Earth is going to be destroyed in an attempt to destroy the entire universe. It's a whole big thing, and it's only the first 5 minutes.
It is a whole big thing. And despite Luke Perry shooting them for no reason at all, they're going to take these stones and they're going to leave, but they're going to come back. When they need to come back to protect the Earth, they're going to come back. They know Luke Perry will no longer be here when they need to come back. They're willing to come back. Maybe is what the situation is. So yeah, they leave. We go 300 years into the future, and now we're there with the president. We see this giant ball of, I don't know, fire. It looks like a little like miniature sun. It is barreling towards the Earth. They're trying to figure out what to do with this thing. They start shooting missiles at it, and that seems to go not that great. But you know, luckily we have a new priest. I guess we're presuming that he is the descendant of the line of these priests, and he's played by Ian Holm. Bilbo Baggins himself is here to play the priest, and he's saying, stop shooting rockets at that thing. That's not going to do the trick. We need to find the fifth element. We need to find these stones. You know, the crazy turtle aliens, they're going to come back and save us. Stop shooting missiles at it. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And the president, now I want to say it's been 300 years, right? So we're a little bit more evolved. So it's the president of the world, not just president of the United States. So apparently we've all figured out how to live together. I call BS on that, but it only took 300 more years.
And he says there's like 200 billion people now. I don't know that we could support 200 billion people. I'm pretty sure we couldn't, but yeah. Alas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. All good questions. But yeah, this priest is like, look, this is a real problem, and they're like, they don't pay him any attention. They're like, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, we'll go collect the stones, no problem. And he's telling them that the Mondoshaeans, the turtle people, they're coming back. They're en route. They'll be here any day now. And of course, they see that the Mondoshaeans are, they've got a little, I don't even know. It looks like a teardrop, like a rusted teardrop flying through space. This their ship. And the priest gentleman is like, they're coming and they're going to have the stones and it's going to be amazing. Well, of course, someone, and we don't know who yet, but there was a group of these really ugly looking alien folks. They're kind of like rhinoceroses, but they're smaller, and
they're kind of dog looking. They're
Mangalores, I think is
Mangalores.
what they're
Yeah,
called.
they're not a good looking race of creatures. And yeah, the Mangalores, they come, they blast our friendly aliens out of the sky. It's not good. We don't know why they're doing that or who sent them, but bad news, because this sun-sized thing is coming in to Earth.
It's coming into Earth. Well, so they search the wreckage because they're like, oh, do we see the stones? And they don't see any stones, and they're like, oh gosh. But they did see, I guess there was a person that was holding on to like a suitcase, and the suitcase seems to be gone, but their hand has survived. And somehow that is enough. That's all we need now. 300 years from now, that's all we need to recreate an entire human being. And there's this really cool scene, actually, because the scientist guy is talking about how the DNA is that they've extracted from this hand, and how they're going to recreate it and look at it. And they do this really cool, basically they 3D print this person, which was not a thing. But now we're 3D printing houses and villages and all sorts of things. And so it's actually really cool that this had the foreshadowing that it did. And it's a really neat scene where, they're like, oh, this being is so perfect. We've done all this testing, and they did it in 5 seconds. And this genetic, it's a genetic anomaly. This being is so perfect and wonderful. And turns out
it has like 3 times the amount of DNA or something.
Yeah, that it's supposed to have. So it's totally fine. And so it's in this like giant tube, and they go through this whole thing, and they really do 3D print a person. So they like put the bones together, and then they put the circulatory system, and then they expose it to UV light, and it grows skin. It's one of my favorite scenes, because someday they're actually going to be able to do this. And when they do it, to whoever if you're going to recreate me, can you make me look a little thinner? Can you I don't need to know how you do it, but can you 3D print me just a little bit thinner? Anyway.
That's right. Yeah. Pop a hand into the pod, and out comes Mila Jovovich. She's playing the Fifth Element. We learn later that her name is Leeloo. Maybe that's really her name. We don't know for sure, because she doesn't speak English, of course. Being an alien being from an alien planet and being entombed for however long, she's entombed for. She basically just pops out every 5,000 years to fight back this giant ball of fire from the sky. But yeah, she comes out. She is in this tube. She's just been 3D printed, but she busts out. That can't contain the Fifth Element, and then she just jumps through the wall, which is just made of aluminum foil. It was like this whole lab was inside of a thing of Jiffy Pop popcorn. She gets out, and she is running through the city. But luckily, we have a hero. We have a hero out there, a former military hero turned taxi driver by the name of Korben Dallas.
Korben Dallas. He's one of the coolest guys ever. He's kind of a lonely guy. He had a wife.
He has a cat.
He has a cat. He has a cat. That's true. But he's a cab driver. He wears a lot of orange. His hair is dyed very light blonde. And he's kind of a loner. His friend Finger, that's what they do. 300 years from now, my great grandson is going to be called Toe or something. His friend Finger was like, hey, I need to do some work on your cab. He's only got like 3 points left on his license, because apparently they kept that point system over 300 years. Don't know why they did that. But he's driving. He's on his way to go and get his car fixed. And Leeloo has jumped out of the sky and literally falls in the back of his cab.
Yeah, that's right. She falls from the air into the cab.
Did I mention that the cabs can fly? Did we talk about this?
Yeah, in 300 years, all the cabs will fly. Of course, that makes sense. And the cities will be gigantically tall. It's like Coruscant in Star Wars. It's just a city that goes up and up and up. But yeah, Korben is driving his taxi. He only has 1 point left. Leeloo just falls out of the sky. Fifth Element crashes into the back of your cab. What are you going to do? The police pull you over. You say, sorry, Leeloo. But she can kind of read the back of his taxi, which says, please help. So she gets those words out. And, Korben, He's a taxi driver with a few points, but he has a big heart. So what does he do? He takes off. He avoids the police, and he gets Leeloo to safely to the priest Cornelius.
That's right, which is great because he was sent home from the president. He was like, "Thanks for telling us that the entire universe is going to be destroyed. We'll call you if we need you."
It's like, don't look up. It just continues forever.
Exactly. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. Just go home. Just go home. It'll be fine. So he's waiting and he sees, he finally meets Leeloo. He's got like an assistant that is hilarious. So funny because the assistant is just this bumbling kind of idiot, and he's like super faithful as a priest, but he's just not there. He's not able to like execute any of the things that he's supposed to do. And so they're kind of waking her up, they're letting her sleep. They're getting her some clothes because she was wearing these amazing thermal bandages. We need to talk about the costuming because one thing that I think really didn't get enough credit is the costuming for this whole film. Like the colors and the fact that like all of the regular people's clothes look like they've been stitched, like it's basically stitched dyed burlap or something. It's just crazy. And when Leeloo is made in her little tube, they're like, oh, we're going to apply thermal bandages, so she's wearing as little as possible while still being able to be seen as a family okay show. I don't know. It's kind of amazing.
PG-13. Yeah, the thermal bandages do not leave a lot to the imagination, we'll say. But yeah, the costuming's pretty good. Like I said, Korben has like this orange t-shirt he wears that matches Leeloo's hair through most of the movie. He takes her to see Cornelius. They say, okay, we need to go find these stones. We know where the stones are now. They're in Fhloston City. That's where we need to go. We need to get there. How are we going to get there? We're poor. I'm a priest. You're a cab driver. She's the fifth element. That doesn't come with cash. I mean, it's a pretty important job, but no money. So how do you get there? Well, as it turns out, there is, I don't know, some sort of like radio thing going on, some sort of radio contest. You can win a trip to Fhloston City, and luckily, Korben, being ex-military, he has some friends in high places that rig the contest for him to win. It's probably one of my favorite scenes, is because like the military people are like coming to Korben's apartment, which is like this weird little like future apartment. It has all of these little like slots and trays and things that like pop out of the wall and weird stuff, like a mail chute that comes. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But they come and he's like hiding them. He like stuffs them into like this, I don't know, refrigerator. He stuffs like 3 people into there in his tiny apartment. It doesn't make any sense, but it's pretty hilarious. He puts Cornelius on a bed and like shrink wraps him when he's in there. Pretty great stuff. But yeah, Korben wins this trip. And by wins, like I said, he is basically set up to go because the military says, you need to go get these stones, dude. You're the only one that can do it. Our former military turned taxi driver guy. You might say you're retired, but you're not. Go save the world.
Go save the world. And he's like, that's fine, but I gotta take I'm taking Leeloo with me. And so they go to I guess it's the airport. I'm not really sure because it looks gross. There's a bunch of garbage everywhere. I guess we haven't solved that problem in 300 years.
And the lady apologizes for the garbage, so like they acknowledge that it was trashy.
Sorry about the garbage. Which is
pretty great.
Yeah, no, it's great. And again, the costume is amazing because everyone on Fhloston Paradise is wearing these really interesting, like blue lavendery kind of suits that have these weird cutouts right in the chest area. So like it's a high collar thing, but there are these cutouts. So you get a look at everyone's chest, but it's still covered up. It's very strange. I've never seen anything like it. It's before or since. Not enough kudos given to this costuming team, but everybody's trying to become Korben Dallas and get on this, right? We realize that the Mangalores or the Mongolors, they were working for this guy named Zorg, who's played by the amazing Gary Oldman. This is one of my favorite characters that Gary Oldman has ever played because he is a monster, but you also kind of like him. He's got this weird Southern accent. Like, he sounds like, he's right to bear arms, right to arm bears. What you gonna do? It's fine. And he's giving them weapons in exchange for these stones, and the way he describes the weapon is amazing. He's like, this is my favorite part right here. It's so funny, but he's a monster. He's not a good person.
Not a good person. Not a good hairpiece.
Not a good hairpiece either. He's got that, like, again, the makeup and costuming is weird because he's got this weird looking comb over and there's a piece of plastic that's like holding it all together. Somehow that
Yeah.
is cool 300 years from now.
It is, and he has a very cool costume too. Like his outfit is very cool. It's like matching like cape and pants. It's like green and like kind of striped, and he walks with a
Yeah.
limp. Gary Oldman as Zorg is the best. Zorg is the
It,
best villain probably ever.
right. Yeah. Yeah. But Zorg is not even evil in and of himself. He is actually being hired by the super evil sun thing that's
Mm-hmm.
barreling towards Earth, right? And
Yeah.
so he's like, "Oh, you need to, you need my costs have tripled." And he's like, and this ominous voice that's calling him over the phone is like, "Money does not matter. Only the stones matter." And that should have been his first clue, right? That, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be alive to spend any of this money, but
Yeah.
it's not, whatever. And so, he's trying to get his team of people into as Korben Dallas onto this ship. The Mongolors are trying to get onto the ship. Everyone's trying to get on the ship, but none of them make it, except for the priest who hides out in like the cargo space,
Yeah.
which had all these gross looking little like alien baby bug things. They were like critters, but not nasty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they get on this cruise ship kind of thing. It is going to Fhloston Paradise. Now Korben Dallas was the winner of this trip, right? So he's kind of like a celebrity on board, but he's not the celebrity on board. The celebrity on board is Ruby Rod, played by Chris Tucker. He's kind of like an Arsenio Hall sort of figure, I guess, kind of in this thing. He is very loud. He is very obnoxious. He's very excitable. I like that he makes like this bee sound when he wants people to go away. He's like, yeah, it's pretty great. And he goes through like these whole like big diatribes, and then he'll ask Korben a question, and Corbin's just like, okay, and that's it. And you can just see him like getting more and more flustered with them. But they are on the ship. They are on their way to Fhloston City. They need to find these stones. Now Leeloo's going because the bad guys have infiltrated the ship, so she's doing her best to fight them off. But Korben, he's just going to the opera. He's there for a good time, front row tickets. Him and Ruby Rod sitting there taking in the spectacle.
Absolutely. And it's not really the opera unless you have a diva that is also going to be singing some cool operatic stuff.
Mm-hmm,
and I gotta say, this diva was pretty great. She's like 9 feet tall. She's blue. She's got lots of tentacle things coming out of her head, but yet she's still actually quite attractive. And she's got this amazing voice that can do, I don't know, like 65 octaves. It's very, the song that she sings is pretty crazy. At first it's very classical, like, and then it gets very, I can't do it. I'm not even gonna try.
It gets a little funky, a little Fhloston funky, I guess. But yeah, she's there. Dallas is totally like smitten with her. He is just sitting there watching her. He is entranced by her angelic singing. But bad news, because Leeloo can't hold off the bad guys forever. They break in. The dog, rhinoceros looking guys. I forget what you said their names were.
Mongolors.
The Mongolors. Yeah, they get in. They start shooting up the theater. And unfortunately, our diva, she gets shot. Korben is there. He's trying to kind of take care of her, and she tells him, go take care of the fifth element, take care of Leeloo, because she is tough, but she can't be tough all on her own. So you have to do that. Right. And she also gives one other key piece of wisdom, and that the stones are inside of her. What does that mean? It's cryptic, but not that cryptic. It's very literal, quite literal.
It's quite literal. And actually, I remember the first time seeing this when she's been shot. Her blood is also blue, which is off-putting in a lot of ways. But he's like, what do you mean? And he literally like puts his hand in her wound and like feels around and pulls out this gigantic stone. And when we say a stone, we mean like a piece of concrete that is triangular in shape. It's probably about a foot long, like a 3x3x3 and 12-inch kind of long thing. So 4 stones, they're really big. I don't know how they got in her, but she's an alien. She's probably got a zipper somewhere or something. Anyway,
yeah.
She unfortunately perishes, but she does give these words of wisdom and the stones to Korben. Korben now has the stones, and he's got to go find Leeloo. He finds her. and they make a run for it. Zorg has coming back on the ship because he also wants the stone. He's like, fine, I'll do it myself. He's hired all these people and none of them have done it. But he had made this bomb that was going to go off, and he gets there and the bomb's going to go off in like 5 seconds. And he thinks that he's subverted it somehow. And the Mongolors are like, no, we're all going to die together. And so everything blows up. But they make it out. Leeloo and the good team with Ruby Rod. I mean, Ruby Rod's along for the ride.
Yeah,
he's like they make it into Zorg's actual ship and they take off and they just barely make it, and they've got a couple hours to get back to Earth, get into that secret tomb, and perform the ceremony that's going to save the universe.
That's right. I love a couple parts about this. And because Zorg goes in, he plants that bomb, and he steals the case that he thinks the stones are in. Then he gets back onto like his ship, and he just starts laughing like this like maniacal laugh because they're not in there. Like it's just like, it's hilarious that he got duped out of not getting these stones after the Mongolors basically did the same thing, which is pretty great. Then they steal his ship. Korben says that it's just like the taxi. That couldn't possibly be true, but that's what he says. And then my favorite part, it's maybe my favorite line in the whole movie. They're flying back. They're headed back to Earth to save the day. The president calls them on Zorg's ship. I don't know how he knew that they were on Zorg's ship. Calls them and is like, hey, this thing's going to hit the Earth in like 6 hours. And Corbin's just like, I'll call you back in 2 hours. which is great. And they get back to Egypt or wherever this tomb is, somewhere in the Middle East, like we said. They get these stones. They get Leeloo. She's laid in the center of this thing. Actually, a really cool kind of thing. They have the stones, and they're like the 4 elements, right? Because she is the 5th element. So they're like, how does this thing work? We put the stones in here, and then they're like, oh, they figure out that they're blowing on the one, so that's like wind, and it kind of activates. And so so then they're like wringing sweat out onto the one and taking a match to the other one, and getting all the elements. And then Leeloo gets activated. The big giant sun thing that's coming to destroy the Earth. No big deal for 5,000 years. We get 5,000 more years.
That's right. I don't know where it goes for the 5,000 years. Is it percolating somewhere? Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it building up? Is this all the people that are mad in traffic, and it just goes out into the ether and turns into a giant anger ball that ends up killing us all? I don't know. That's right. I don't know what happens, but it doesn't matter because the Earth and the universe in its entirety is at least safe for another 5,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Leeloo and Korben Dallas end up getting together. Korben admits that he's in love with her and that he has feelings, and he does not want her to just be this thing that comes out every 5,000 years. He wants to be together with her, and that's really lovely. And so that's kind of how it ends, is that they find a pod to go hang out together.
That's right. Yeah, they're back at the science lab thing in the pod, and they have there's a screen over it, and the doctor's like, oh, they need more time. And they're in there making out, having their alone time, I guess, after saving the world. That's how it ends. It is a very zany story. So let's talk a little bit about it. We kind of went through the story. Bruce Willis as this role. Bruce Willis is a funny guy, right? He got his start on TV in a comedy, and then went on to do Die Hard, so like this action adventure. But he definitely has this comedic timing about him, and it works really well. And this thing is quirky as all get out. It's kind of like a Monty Python sci-fi story, kind of, right? It's just so random and out there, like all of this stuff.
It is. But Bruce Willis has made a name for himself being like this tough guy who's got this super soft spot, right? Even when he did Die Hard, which we can debate if it's a Christmas movie or not, but he's like this super tough guy who's like, at the end of the day, is like, I just love my wife and I want to be with her. And this persona serves very well in this set, in the way that they do the set direction and the way the script works. And the script, Luc Besson had been working on this script since he was like 16 years old. So this was a huge labor of love for him. So I really think that they could not have picked a better person to really play Korben Dallas and really bring him to life. I think what's really interesting from the character perspective is the again, Gary Oldman's character, because he is such a monster, and the way they don't really play off each other at all. There's no scenes where they're really together.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you really feel like it's definitely him, they're both, it's Zorg versus Korben.
Yeah.
And they make that work, I think, because even though they're not seen together, and I mean, I don't think they ever actually are in the same space.
No, I think the only person that's ever with Zorg is Cornelius, the priest. He ends up going into his office as Zorg is kind of, I don't know, kidnapped him, but called him to his office basically or something. And they're talking because he's trying to get the key to these stones and figure out where they're at. Yeah, it is weird because they never actually meet, and they're kind of the hero and the antagonist of the story. And Gary Oldman is so awesome. I mean, he's awesome in everything that he does. Really, there's like no bad Gary Oldman roles for sure. But this one is wacky, and I love it. I love his voice. I love he has like a weird pet little like elephant looking thing on his desk that he's like cuddling with like partway through. It's like a guard
like
mesh,
an elephant baby
thing.
thing.
It's so great in the costuming, and then yeah, you have Leeloo, who's Mila Jovovich. She was kind of like blowing up at the time, like getting like super popular, and then she went on to do like the Resident Evil franchise, but she was like gaining like all this like crazy popularity. I remember she was a big deal, kind of in the late 90s. And then of course Chris Tucker just being Chris Tucker as Ruby Rhod. What do we think about Ruby Rhod?
Oh my gosh, he's so completely fearless. Like, I mean, Chris Tucker has been he's such a physical kind of comedic actor, and he uses his voice and the intonations to really create his humor. But in this one, it was so fast. I mean, if you go back, and I was using the subtitles, and it's so amazing. It's so it's so clever, the way that he says certain things, and the fact that he's so zany, and he's got these really strange hairstyle. One of his hairstyles looks like a dryer, like a hair dryer. It's got this weird hair dryer looking thing, and then he's got kind of this rose. He's wearing this rose robe that's got all these like they look like real roses on the collar, but they're everywhere, and it's just super in your face and just incredibly zany. But he's also attractive in a way, and that was one thing that I thought was really funny, is all these women are like, he is so amazing, oh my god, he's so great, and he's super zany, and you're like, he's a nutball, but he just really, it's really great. And the fact that when things start happening and he's doing this radio show live, and he's like, come get me, I'm in the front row, and his just kind of he's the diva, like the most diva person in this whole thing is not the 9 foot tall blue chick, it's him, and it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And then this kind of propelled him on too, right? I mean, he was in that same year, he was also in Money Talks and Jackie Brown as well. But then the following year was in Rush Hour, and that kind of made him explode, go onto the scene. That film series that he did with Jackie Chan there. I love the part when they're finally, I think they're on the ship, they get off right before it explodes, and he's like sweating and he's crying, and he's like, that was my most amazing show ever. Like, he's just thinking about himself. He's such a narcissist. It's hilarious. He's great. And yeah, I mean, all this crazy stuff, it all happened 25 years ago. Taking a look at the movie kind of overall, I was watching it and I'm like, man, the costuming, like you'd said, is really good. The special effects are really good. Like all of the creature stuff, kind of that practical stuff, and even like the bigger stuff, like at the beginning of the movie when they're in Egypt, like in the early 1900s, and the big spaceship comes in. It looks awesome for 1997, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, I again, there's some things that happen in film where everyone loves a movie the year it comes out, and then there are sleepers that end up developing this cult following. I don't really know what happened here, because people loved it when it came out. It didn't win any Oscars or anything like that. It's not like an esoteric film, but like if you look back now, I guarantee you the blue diva that we have in Star Wars it's not the same, but it had to have been inspired by this whole idea of
Hmm.
going on a ship and having an experience where you're sung to by something that is blue. I don't know, maybe not, but
Hmm.
it's that whole adventure. I mean, it really does. It was not, it's so much better now when I saw it this time, because I know that it standed the test of time, even from a visual effects perspective.
Hmm.
It's done really, really well to stand up to other movies that are coming out now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
one of the one of the things that I like about it is just the world feels very some of the stuff is like very bombastic and the flying cars and the way that the taxi looked, right? They're very kind of sci-fi and bombastic looking, but just the world feels very lived in, and it's not like you have like a distant future like in Blade Runner that's more dystopian. This just feels like this is just what it's going to be like. There's going to be garbage everywhere, and the buildings are going to be tall, and we're all going to have these tiny little apartments, and mail's just going to come like in a slot, like right into our house. Like it just felt like that's how it was going to be. Like it didn't feel like it was really, like I said, it wasn't like a dystopian kind of a thing. It was just like this is what it's going to be like, and I really like that kind of this lived in world that we had there. And like you said, maybe it didn't get the props maybe for the Academy Awards. I was kind of looking through there for like the costuming and the special effects and stuff, and it looked like those were kind of split up amongst like the three big sci-fi ones. I'd said Men in Black had one, I think for the special effects, and I think Starship Troopers had one for one of the other kind of special effects. So I think they just kind of split them, kind of that way. So I don't know,
Mhm.
it's interesting. And yeah, 25 years ago. So Michaela, this was. I don't want to say it was a big deal because I don't know that it was a big deal, but people generally liked this when it came out. Was this something that you saw like back in 1997 at the theater? Did you rent it, or what was your,
I
I guess, first viewing of this like?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw this. I did not see this in the theater. I have two best friends, and they're probably listening. Steven, he named his son Korben after this
I thought
film.
you were going to say Ruby Rod.
No,
Name this
no,
kid Ruby
no,
Rod. No,
Korben.
oh, okay,
Nope,
okay.
nope. He his first son, his firstborn son is named Korben for this film. My friend
Hmm.
Christina, affectionately called Tina in high school, she was like, "You've got to see this film. How come you've never seen The Fifth Element?" And I was like, "I don't know." So it was probably like 98, 99 by the time I saw it, because I
Hmm.
saw it at a friend's house while we were doing kind of a sleepover thing, and it was amazing. And but I remember thinking this is like a true action adventure film for those who were teens in the late 90s, because this is after all of like the Indiana Jones stuff. It's after the Back to the Future stuff, but it's still like this futuristic adventure and it's epic. You go from place to place, and it
Hmm.
spans space and time. It was right before all of the second Star Wars stuff started hitting theaters, so it was right in that sweet
Hmm.
spot where we really
Yeah.
needed something that was fairly family friendly. I mean, there's a little bit of questionable stuff in this one, but certainly not tons of violence or nudity. It's a great ride. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
it is
loved it
pretty.
then. I love it now.
Yeah, it is pretty fun, and it's a wild ride. And yeah, you bring up a good point. It was kind of right before Star Wars came back in '99, so it was kind of right in that point where things started getting kind of like ultra realistic. You had Quentin Tarantino coming in, with kind of more of this like sensationalized like violence and more like adult
Right.
driven like narratives. So this was just kind of fun in that same kind of in that vein of these space adventures or like serial sort of adventures that Star Wars, Indiana Jones, those kinds of things were. I don't remember exactly when I would have seen this the first time. I think I probably rented it sometime in high school, but I do remember when I bought my PlayStation 2, which had a DVD player built in, which is why the PlayStation 2 sold like a billion of them. But one of the things when you got it, or at least when I got mine, was that you could pick like three DVDs for free, and you just sent off and they like mailed them to you as part of like the promotion for buying one. And this was one of the DVDs that I got. So yeah, so I've always really just kind of liked this. I like science fiction in general, and stuff like that. And I think just seeing like weird creatures and like that kind of story, and the sense of humor I think is really good, and it fits it really well. And Bruce Willis can kind of lean into it and ham it up, and kind of
Yeah.
more of the kind of not necessarily like slapsticky, but kind of like the gaggy sort of humor in there. I just think that it works in this world for some reason really good, and that's why it was back on the big screen 25 years later, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
if you're watching or if you're listening along at home, let us know what you think about The Fifth Element. If you watched it in theaters, if you've seen it, if this is introduction to you, please go check it out. We highly recommend it. If you've never seen it before, you're probably going to watch it and be like, this thing is zany and nutty, and I don't know what they're on about this thing being good. But I don't think that. I think that you'll find a true gem here in this one. So do that to make yourself a Fhloston Paradise. To have with it because it's delicious and pretty easy to put together. So if you do that, take a picture, send it in to us. We want to see it. You can tag us on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the ones that we made, episode recaps, all that good stuff, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And, after you go on your pleasure cruise to Fhloston, you have a cocktail or two, maybe you have an extra minute and you could go by your podcast player and leave your favorite podcast review. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere that Anchor podcasts are distributed and supported. We do 2 drops a week. We would love it if you subscribed. If you're loving what you're hearing on Drink the Movies, leave us a 5-star review. That would be so awesome. We are so excited about the community that we're building that brings cocktails and movies together, and be part of it. Leave us a review so we can help reach more people.
Absolutely. We definitely appreciate that. And we definitely appreciate everyone who sends us some pictures and chats with us online. Definitely appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate having a Fhloston Paradise. So I think, Michaela, we need to go and mix up another one of these because this could be my new like go-to cocktail when I don't want a martini and I don't want a whiskey. I think this is it. I think this is my new house favorite.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh, that makes me so happy when we find ones that we love so much that we're gonna keep in our back pocket for random Tuesday drinks or whatever. That's awesome. This was really tasty. This was a tasty one.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go mix those up, and then we will we're heading to the movie theater. So we will check in with everyone next time on
Drink the Movies.
The Movies. You're not the president. You don't sound like the president. We didn't even talk about his mom keeps calling the whole time.
Oh my God. She knows it's a multi-pass. Anyway, we're in love. That's my favorite line. Multi-pass.